In the heart of Africa, there was a small village called Nyota, where the sun always shone bright, and the trees whispered stories of old. The people of Nyota were known for their kindness and unity, but hidden beneath the surface were secrets that could tear lives apart. In this village lived a pair of twin sisters, Amani and Zuri. They were as different as night and day. Amani was tall and strong, with a smile that could light up the darkest night. She was loved by everyone in the village. Zuri, on the other hand, was skinny and small. She had delicate features and big, brown eyes that seemed too large for her face. While Amani was admired, Zuri often found herself the target of cruel jokes. "Why are you so skinny?" the other children would tease her. "You look like a stick." Even the elders, who were supposed to be wise, would shake their heads when they saw her, whispering about how strange it was that two twins could be so different. Zuri's only solace was in nature. She loved to spend time by the river, watching the fish swim and listening to the songs of the birds. The animals didn't care about her skinny build. To them, she was just Zuri, a kind soul who would sit quietly and watch the world go by. But Amani, despite being the favorite, felt something she didn't like when she looked at her sister. It was a feeling she couldn't quite place, but it made her stomach twist. Sometimes, she caught herself wishing she didn't have a twin, especially one who was so different. She hated the way people compared them, and she hated how she could never escape the shadow of Zuri's strange looks. One day, the village held its annual harvest festival. It was a time of celebration, with music, dancing, and feasting. Everyone wore their best clothes, and the air was filled with the smell of roasting meat and sweet fruit. The whole village gathered in the central square, where the chief, Mzikito, would give his blessings. Amani was excited. She knew she would be the center of attention, as she always was. But something unexpected happened that day. As the villagers danced and sang, a group of young boys began to make fun of Zuri. They pulled her thin arms, pretending they would break like dry sticks, and called her names. Zuri tried to smile and pretend it didn't hurt, but inside, she felt like she was breaking. Amani saw what was happening, and for a moment, she felt sorry for her sister. She wanted to help, but then she noticed something. The attention had shifted from her to Zuri, even if it was for the wrong reasons. The thought of stepping in and helping her sister felt like giving up her own spotlight. So, she turned away and pretended not to see. But someone else did see. It was Mama Osha, the village healer, who had always been kind to Zuri. She walked over to the boys and scolded them, telling them to leave Zuri alone. They ran off, laughing, and Zuri was left standing there, her eyes filled with tears. Mama Osha put her arm around Zuri and led her away from the crowd. "You are special, Zuri," she whispered. "Don't ever forget that." Zuri nodded, but her heart was heavy. She didn't feel special. She felt like an outsider in her own village, betrayed by her own sister. As the night went on, Amani tried to enjoy the festival, but she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. She had always been the strong one, the one everyone admired, but tonight, she had let her sister down. That night, when the village was asleep, Zuri sneaked out of her hut and went to the river. She sat on the bank, staring at her reflection in the water. She didn't understand why she was so different or why people couldn't see past her skinny frame. She wished she could just disappear into the water and never come back. The moonlight reflected off the water, and Zuri felt a strange sense of calm. She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of the night, letting them soothe her troubled heart. But as she sat there, she heard something that made her freeze. It was a rustling in the bushes behind her. She turned around slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. Out of the shadows stepped a figure she had never seen before. It was a tall woman, dressed in a long, flowing robe that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. Her skin was dark, and her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Who are you? Zuri whispered, her voice trembling. The woman smiled, a gentle, sad smile. I am Nia, she said, her voice soft and melodic. I have been watching you, Zuri. I know the pain you carry in your heart. Zuri felt a chill run down her spine. How did this woman know her name? And what did she want? Nia stepped closer, and Zuri could see that her feet didn't touch the ground. She seemed to float, as if she was made of mist and moonlight. You are special, Zuri, Nia said. But the people of your village cannot see that. They are blinded by their own ignorance. Zuri shook her head. I'm not special, she said. I'm just a skinny girl who everyone laughs at. Nia reached out and touched Zuri's cheek, and a warmth spread through her body. You are more than what they see, she said. You have a gift, Zuri. A gift that will change everything. Zuri looked into Nia's glowing eyes, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. What gift? She asked. Nia smiled again, but this time, it was a knowing smile. In time, you will see, she said. But for now, you must be strong. The path ahead of you is not an easy one. There will be trials and betrayals, but you must not lose hope. Zuri felt a tear slip down her cheek. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Why are you helping me? Nia's smile faded, and her eyes grew sad. Because I was once like you, Zuri, she said. I was different, and I was betrayed by those I trusted. But I let that betrayal consume me, and it turned me into something dark. I don't want that to happen to you. Zuri felt a shiver run down her spine. What do you mean? She asked. Nia stepped back, her form growing fainter as if she was fading into the night. You will understand in time, she said. But remember, Zuri, you are not alone. I will be watching over you. With that, Nia disappeared into the shadows, leaving Zuri alone by the river. She sat there for a long time, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Was it a dream? Or was it real? She didn't know, but something inside her had changed. She felt a new strength, a new resolve. The next morning, Zuri woke up with a strange sense of purpose. She went about her day as usual, but she couldn't stop thinking about Nia's words. What gift did she have? And what trials lay ahead? As the days passed, strange things began to happen in the village. The crops, which had always been plentiful, started to wither and die. The animals grew restless, and the villagers began to whisper about a curse. They didn't know what was causing it, but they were afraid. Amani noticed the change in Zuri. Her sister seemed quieter, more withdrawn, but there was a strength in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Amani felt a pang of guilt every time she looked at her, remembering how she had turned her back on her that night at the festival. One evening, as the sun was setting, Zuri was sitting by the river when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw Amani standing there, looking unsure of herself. Can I sit with you? Amani asked. Zuri nodded, and Amani sat down beside her. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the water as it flowed over the rocks. I'm sorry, Zuri, Amani said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry I didn't help you that night. I don't know what I was thinking. I was selfish. Zuri looked at her sister, surprised by her words. She had never heard Amani apologize before. It's okay, she said softly. I know it's not easy being compared to me. Amani shook her head. No, it's not okay. I should have been there for you. You're my sister, and I should have protected you. Zuri felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. It's in the past, she said. We can't change what happened. But we can move forward. Amani nodded, her eyes full of regret. I want to make it up to you, Zuri, she said. I want us to be close, like we used to be. Zuri smiled, a small, sad smile. I'd like that too, she said. For a moment, it felt like things could be okay again. But deep down, Zuri knew that their troubles were far from over. The strange happenings in the village were just the beginning, and she had